coming up on the Knowledge Industry Podcast.
You are so much better off creating 10 products than you are creating one product. You got 10x the chance of something good happening.
So how do you earn a consistent living online? Today's guest is Rob Cuban, who spent years doing just that, using online courses, books, and much more. So how does he do it?
Do you sell online courses or run live workshops? Do you have expertise that can help people in life or business? Are you even running an online training empire from your kitchen table? Then you're part of the knowledge industry, a fast-growing industry that means that you can learn almost anything, and anyone can create a business around what's between their ears. Welcome to the Knowledge Industry Podcast with your host, Mark Egan.
Okay, so Rob, really great to speak to you. I know you're in Thailand, and in my mind, whenever I speak to people who are like working out of Thailand, I vision them, with this beach hut, the sea lapping against their toes and their laptop on there. But I'm guessing it's not like that. So whereabouts do you live? What kind of place do you live in?
Oh, I live in Chiang Mai, which is very unfortunately landlocked. It's just kind of 500 kilometers from the nearest bit of coastline. I have to say, I did go down to Koh Phangan and Koh Samui. I've just got back from an island. So if you'd interviewed me like 2 months ago, I would have shown you the sea lapping against the bungalow. But at the moment, I'm in a city which has 200 to 400,000 people in it, depending on where you draw the boundary. And it's a very nice place. It's if you get outside, it's very rural, and there's a great entrepreneurial international community here. And the Thai people are also great and entrepreneurial as well. So all in all, it's a good place to base myself at this time being.
So we'll come to later on, like why you've ended up there and what you're doing and all that kind of thing. But a lot of people I speak to who have created online courses or a business using their expertise, the story tends to begin with, I was in some kind of corporate job and then I got fed up of it and I thought, right, I'm now going to kind of use my expertise and create a business online teaching something like that. But you actually came a slightly different route because you were a freelancer, weren't you?
Yes, I never had a very corporate jobs. I was just being employed temporarily and paid by the hour in London.
So I came across you and I was trying to work this out. We're talking probably like 15 years ago, something like that. It's like a long, long time ago. And I'd left the BBC and I was trying to learn everything I could about business and all that kind of thing. And I came across your Kindle books, your ebooks, and you had books about very specific topics. And I think one of them I bought was actually about going freelance and how to make a living, as a freelancer and all that kind of thing. So how did you make that step from you're freelancing, you're doing, design services, all sorts of different things. How did you make that step between doing that and actually starting to create books and courses and that kind of thing?
Yeah, well, the fact that it was 15 years ago is quite pertinent, actually, because in 2005, I set up a website. That's the first step. I set up a website, robcubbon.com, which is still my website today. And I started blogging, and I've got to say it was a little bit easier in those days to get on the first page of Google for various long tail keyword phrases. And that's how I started to get work online. That's how I started to get freelance work, where quite a good client would come. I got work from Accenture, which was a great client, and they were just great to work with, and they paid me really well, and the work was great. I never would have got that sort of job if I was just, freelancing in London, going through the agencies. But because this marvelous explosion of blogging that happened in the early 2000s really democratized, entrepreneurship, basically. I was able to get these jobs, make more money, and stay at home. And then I had a bit of time as well to go into other things. And then I just became more interested in making money online. And then the Kindle thing was just another one of those things that I tried in order to sort of create content, build a community, and that sort of thing. So really the first step was starting a website.
So like I said, I read the books, which were really good, very specific, very practical. And the other place where I've come across you was Udemy. So Udemy, most people I'm sure know Udemy, but it's a place where people put up courses, and it's sort of a marketplace. So you go in there and you can look through all sorts of different courses, and there's courses on literally anything. And you've created a number of courses. I mean, do you know rough figure how many courses you've got on Udemy?
Well, I'm sure I've done over 20, and some of the older ones, I've discontinued, unpublished some of the older ones. Not that they're out, they just look old. Do you know what I mean? Because WordPress has moved on since then. So, but I would have done between 20 and 25 courses.
And what's your thinking there? Because Udemy, when you speak to course creators, there are some people who say, look, there's a huge audience there. You pretty much make the course, you put it up, they sell it, it's awesome. And there's another school of thought, which is it tends to be heavily discounted. It's very great. It's great for people, consumers. But as a course creator, it tends to end up discounting too much. What's been your take on Udemy?
Yeah, I agree with both of those things, because there is a third. There's a third way, and that's do both, right? So I mean, and also you have to think about the time, because when I started in Udemy, it was even, again, I was lucky. I got in there earlier. There was less competition for WordPress courses. And also, it was harder to sell courses on your own site in those days. Teachable, Thinkific, and LearnDash, these things came later after Udemy. So, I mean, in answer to that question, yes, Udemy is great. Yes, it discounts terribly. You'll get paid $1 every time you sell your 24-hour course. However, you can do one course, a light version on Udemy, sell it for $10, and then sell your own good courses, in more in-depth courses on your own site, and sell them for $200. So you can have your cake and eat it in a way.
Although they don't like you, aren't there rules about how much you can promote stuff off Udemy, or do you just, you put your course up there, say beginner's guide to WordPress? Yes. And then at the end of it, you're like, well, you might want to come over to my website where there's the advanced, and that's not discounted.
Yeah, that's absolutely true. I mean, but there are ways around that. So, on Udemy, my name is Rob Cubbon, and if you just Google my name, you'll find my site. And I used my own website as an example to show people how to do certain things on WordPress, so they saw the site. There's a friend of mine who says, here's a Facebook group you can join, and we talk about this subject on the Facebook group. And once they're on the Facebook group, of course, he's free to sell them anything he wants. And I mean, also they might come to your website through another channel. They could come to your website through Google, through YouTube, or they just might have, from any social media, or even a Kindle book. And yeah, I mean, obviously, if you sell it on your own site, you have to do your own marketing. But it is possible. It is possible to do both.
Now, when you look at most freelancers, it's a typical year would look like this. It's a little bit quiet at the beginning of the year, and then suddenly everybody comes back. It picks up. It does really well, and then maybe it's a bit of a lull, and then there's periods where people are trying to get rid of their budgets. It gets busy. And then it gets towards Christmas, things start winding down, and it's kind of like up and down waves. Presumably, one of the reasons you're interested in selling books and courses was to give a bit more predictability, a bit more kind of passive income. So how did that change from being a freelancer who was maybe worried was the next job coming in to having all these books and courses? Did that completely change your lifestyle, your ability to kind of live wherever you wanted?
Well, it did. It did eventually. I mean, it was also in my head as well, because I was married. I was in London, and people around me were in London and commuting, and there was a kind of mindset about it. You kind of that's what you expected out of life, and I guess I worked very hard, because I was enjoying the freelance work. But then the freelance work would give me ideas for content, and I used to love doing this. You see, I'd always think, right, I'm working now, I'm getting paid once. How can I get paid twice doing the same thing, you see. And so I'd video myself doing work for a client, and get paid for the client would pay me for doing the work, and I'd use the video in a course that I was getting paid for as well. So, there was a way of combining these things so you could work effectively and therefore create content that you can sell whilst you're swapping hours for dollars. So I had that active-passive thing going at the same time, having my cake and eating it. Again, that seems to be a theme this afternoon.
So what would be your message to a freelancer listening to this? Maybe they do something like video production or photography or something like that. And they're listening to this and they're thinking, okay, I'm interested in this. I see what you did there. What should they do? What would be the starting point for them?
Yeah, well, I think the starting point is creating content, putting stuff out there, and it doesn't matter where it is. Whether you want to make a blog, you want to do it on LinkedIn, you want to do it on YouTube, wherever you feel comfortable at first. And then the next question is, but what content do I make? Maybe they think, look, everything's out there anyway, so I don't need to. Well, I remember the way I started, it was conversations at work. Somebody would say, how do you do this? And somebody would show me something at work. And I thought, that's clever. That's a good way of doing it. And I'd put it on YouTube or put it in my blog. Or, so a client would ask me how to do something, and it was a little bit challenging. I thought, okay. And I'd Google it and find out the answer. And I'd go, okay, that's an interesting thing. And then I'll create content about that. And it just snowballed. And you can see from the free content you're putting out. So the stuff you're putting out on YouTube or whatever is free. Maybe nobody sees it. These things happen. And it's tough. I understand it. It's happened to me. But if you do it if you have enough enthusiasm and you do it for a while, you will find that some things do better than other things. And that's your clue as to what product you should what avenue you should go down.
And if you were somebody, again, like a photographer or a videographer, like one of the things that some people do is they'll say, look, you know what, I'm going to bundle up all my knowledge and create one signature main course, which is a very high price. It's, maybe takes a long time to go through it. You spend a lot of time putting it together, and that's their one thing, their one huge main course, and everything points towards that. You seem to take a different approach. You seem to do more mini courses. So tell me about what's your mindset and how has that worked out for you?
Yeah, I've seen it so many times. The people put everything into their first course. And it's so, I get why they're doing it. I do understand it. They want to do something special. It's a different mindset. There's something about me. I just like to get things done. I like to get things finished. I am actually a really lazy person, Mark, and I actually think laziness is a good thing sometimes, because lazy people discover amazing ways to do things easily. Lazy people are quite useful. We don't get enough. We don't get the respect we deserve, I don't think, from the wider community. So I was very lazy. So I thought, well, if I just knock this thing out in 5 minutes, and at least I'll get it done. At least I'll put it on YouTube, and if nobody watches it, that's fine. I've only spent 5 minutes on it. You are so much better off creating 10 products than you are creating one product, because you got 10x the chance of something good happening. And you want to leave your war and peace to the end of your career. You want to start with baby steps and start, and it's so much more. There's so many good reasons why you should do that. I mean, you're much more likely to get sales on a course that says how to use master pages in Adobe InDesign than you are doing a course on the whole of Adobe Creative Suite. Because nobody's going to buy who are you as well? Nobody's heard of you. So you're much better off honing down on those tight little niches and doing many courses like that. As far as I'm concerned, that's the way I see it.
Because it seems to be a common theme with what you're saying is put a lot of stuff out there. And by doing that, that's how you get your market research, you get answers to your questions. So, one of the things that people maybe aren't doing is they're trying to kind of analyze and perfect what's the course I should put out. Whereas your message would be just get stuff out there, both free and paid, and the journey will reveal itself based on that. Now, another thing I wondered is you mentioned that you trade under your own name. So your website's under your own name. And I'm the same thing as well, in the sense I have a company, but my website is my name. Unfortunately, there is also a Mark Egan who is a bass guitarist, like a jazz player or something. He's got like crazy kind of Michael Bolton style hair. So unfortunately, he takes away some of the Mark Egan traffic. But do you think it's a good thing to trade on your name, because then basically people get to know you quickly and you build that trust factor really quickly? Or the other school of thought is, nope, you should have it like a generic business name, so therefore you can outsource other things and maybe bring in guest trainers and all that. What's your view on that?
Yeah, this is a really interesting point, actually, Mark, because I would have given a different answer a few years ago. And yeah, I mean, okay, it worked for me, and my name is Cubbon, Cubbon, and there's not too many famous Cubbons around, and certainly not any musicians. Yeah, it worked for me for that reason. However, there is advantages and disadvantages for everything. The advantage of using your own name, as I just said, people will hopefully remember it, and then they'll find you easy on whatever social media. They'll find you on YouTube, they'll find you on Google, whatever. And also it's an easier brand. It's easier branding. People identify with faces and names. This is the way we're brought up. So the branding almost takes care of itself. You don't have to worry about the logo. Just do a logo. It's going to be okay. And also there's another good thing about it is you might want to pivot your career. So maybe you call your company Mark Egan Web Design, and then you get bored with web design and you want to move on to mobile app design. And then, your company's called the wrong name, so you've got to change the company name. So those are the advantages. The disadvantage is your name, your face is your business, and you can't freelance your face off. You can't, and this has become apparent to me now, as I've realised I took too much on, and I had a bit too much work on, and for a lot of reasons. I found it a little bit too much, but then again, I don't regret it.
So I know there's that idea that when you go freelance, there's all the jokes about you get to choose which 18 hours of the day to work, and you've given yourself a job with the worst boss in the world, all this kind of thing. Yeah. I'm very interested in the whole kind of freelancer thing, because when I speak to some people I know who are struggling, and my background's in the media, so a lot of people with storytelling skills, video skills, photography skills, and they're freelancing, and often they've come out of big corporate jobs, and they struggle a little bit sometimes with how to get clients and the marketing and all of these things. And when I do say, have you ever thought about creating an online course or doing some coaching or writing a book or something like that? It's always kind of like, well, I'm really busy in one sense, because if I'm not working, I should be marketing. And it's seen as something that's too time consuming. So take something like a Kindle book. If somebody were a freelancer, maybe they're a web designer, photographer, whatever it is, would you recommend them writing a book? And if so, would it be a Kindle book, one that you physically publish? What would be your advice to them?
Yeah, and I've got a lot of sympathy for these people, you see, because I've probably made that mistake in the past and said, look, just write a book. And what I found easy, there were reasons why I found it easy, and there were reasons why I did the right thing at the right time. Maybe I was in the right place at the right time. And so I wouldn't advise anyone to do anything. What I'd advise people is to do whatever feels right for them, because it might not be the right person to write a Kindle book. It might take them a long time. It happened to take me a month, and I could write a Kindle book in a month. I could make a course in a month, and I'd do that whilst working for clients or whilst doing other things. I don't know why. I just found it easy. I think other people would find that difficult. Maybe they want their character type likes to be a bit more perfectionist. I wouldn't have the answer for everybody. All I can tell you is what I did, and see if that helps. All I'd say is just take one step at a time. Start with free content again. See how you feel. Do you like writing, or are you better at video? It really would be down to the individual.
And when it comes to you said you could do things in a month. So I'm guessing, again, if every month you're producing a book or a course, that's an asset, and that adds a little bit more income. And that's obviously why you can live in Thailand and, be wherever you want to be. What's actually your process for writing a book? So if I just say, I listened to Rob and he inspired me, always meant to write that book. What is your process? Do you do a bunch of research about things first, or do you do SEO searches to figure out what the best topic would be? Or do you literally sit there and just think, like you said, I had a conversation with somebody, that would be a great book. Let me start sketching it out. What's been your process?
Yeah, do you know what, Mark? I really loved the book thing. There was something about it, it's just like I've written a book, and then when I did it, I found it's so ridiculously easy. This is crazy. How there I am on Amazon store next to Tolstoy and Dickens, and this is cool. Okay, so I could talk all night about how to write a book. Basically, again, it starts with free content. So whatever I was writing on the blog that became successful, I then sort of thought about the book. I started with a mind map, basically, just a simple sketch of the how you'd go through the subject linearly. And then you'd get the chapter and the subheadings all down there, and then you just start writing, and you don't edit as you write, although actually that's a rule I didn't always follow. And you write maybe 500 words a day. 500 words a day. It will take you an hour. It's not much. And then by the end of Kindles, you can get away with doing 15,000, 20,000 words on a Kindle. So correct me if I'm wrong. I think you can do that in a month. And yeah, definitely. And just going through the mental arithmetic there, so I made a fool of myself. So and there you've got the book. Okay, there are other stages to it. You've got to get it edited. And you've got to get it formatted correctly for Kindle and paperback. And then you put them on Amazon. By the way, during this process, you haven't paid any money unless you want to pay someone to edit it. It's absolutely free to put your own book on Amazon and get it sold. That in itself is a cool factor. Now, you did mention SEO because that is very important. So I never remember whether I wrote 7 or 8 books. But only 2 of them sell every day, and the 2 that sell every day are called running a web design business and selling video courses online. Okay, so free and the other book you mentioned, From Freelancer to Entrepreneur, that never sells, just once in a blue moon. Right, so the reason thanks. My only sale, and the reason is SEO, and that was just down to luck. If you think about those 2 titles, they do sound good for SEO, right? Running your own web design business and selling video courses online. You can see how that did well. better than, I'll give you some of my other titles, From Freelancer to Entrepreneur, The New Freedom, Mind Freedom. And it's like, that was my ego doing that. I thought, mind freedom, that's going to be the next big thing. That's going to be the next 4-hour work week. And of course it tanked. I should have called, if I called it location independent entrepreneurship, might have done a bit better. So this is the way SEO works. You've got to get into the heads of the people who are making searches on Amazon and Google, and that takes a bit of practice. But again, it goes back to the free content, because if your free content's doing well with certain keywords, don't stop there. Use the keywords again and again and again, and they'll do well again. And then use them in a Kindle, and they'll do well again.
And we're putting together the Kindle stuff, the courses, and I know you've got your core, your design stuff, your website, all that kind of thing. Bring it kind of up to date now. You've done the location independent thing where you're now living in Thailand, and you were ahead of the game when you think about it, because after the COVID lockdowns, a lot of people suddenly realized, you know what, I don't actually need to cram onto the Central Line and travel into London or the metro in New York or wherever it is. You do have options nowadays because of this digital world. So for anybody who's thinking, you know what, this has been a big eye opener to me, maybe I would like to pivot, and instead of being a freelancer or going into a corporate job, I want to do like what Rob's done. I want to be location independent and embrace this digital world. Can it be done? And if so, how do you do it?
Yeah, I mean, it's not for everybody. I mean, remember, I don't have any children, and I'm not married anymore, and so I've only got myself to look after, and that is very easy. I mean, it's actually, it's cheaper. I'm very hungry at the moment, and I'm just about to go and get something, and it will cost me $1. Rather than having to make it myself, which is something that I don't particularly enjoy. So I mean, you do have to sort of take that into account. I mean, having said that, there are families here that do it, and there are ways of doing it. It suits me down to the ground. I can't. In London, it was very, when I used to live not too far from where you are at the moment, I think. It was very interesting. At the age I was in, I would have been in my early 40s, mid 40s, and I had a lot of friends in London, as you might imagine, during my 20s and 30s. They just all left because they couldn't afford it. And I'm from the southeast. I'm actually from Kent, and everyone there has left as well because they can't afford it. And so I went to Thailand, and of course, when you're a foreigner, you meet other foreigners, and there's something about dropping yourself in a foreign country out of necessity. You just meet people. You just go in a coffee shop and start talking, and you've met someone, and they're a friend. And I remember coming back after the first 3 months in Thailand in 2014. I came back to see my family for Christmas, and of course, my poor mum wanted me to come back to England. And I remember saying to my dad, I said, I've got more friends in Thailand than I do have in the whole of England. And I'd only been there for 3 months. It worked out for me. And it's a subject that I find very interesting. Obviously, everything's in the air now. We've got COVID. You don't come to Thailand now. It's just not a good time. I will revisit this subject again. Feel free to ask me any questions. But there's a lot of technicalities. There's visas, there's bank accounts, and all these things that you've got to sort out. However, can it be done? Well, I mean, look, this is my laptop here. I'm talking to you. I do everything on my laptop, write books, make videos. Yeah, of course technically it can be done. Yes, absolutely.
Well, I think I might need to get you back on just to talk about that specific topic, because it's such a big one. Now, coming to the end, because obviously you need to go and get your $1 food, which I'm sure it probably tastes much nicer than it sounds, because $1 here not going to get you that much, to be honest. Yeah, maybe if Greg's Pies have a special on or something. But bringing things up to date. Now, I saw you posted a video on YouTube, and you talked about how, you've done lots of different things. And actually, one of the problems of being more entrepreneurial is that you're attracted to, it's like, books, courses, let's sell some stuff on Amazon. And again, all of these things add up to a passive income. But you're obviously at this point now where there's that question of, jack of all trade, master of none thing, or do you spread yourself too thin even by trying to master too many topics and too many different things? So tell us a little bit about the point you're at now and some of the kind of decisions you're having to make about, what to pursue and what not to pursue.
Yeah, this is all going on, and this is why I say so much. What sort of person you are, and how old you are, your gender, your marital situation. It's all going to come into it. We're not all the same, and also I find now that I think everything. There's no such thing as good and bad. I think your good points. In one year, something that's a character, a flaw that you have can become an advantage in another time. Like I was really bad at school because I didn't like to be told what to do, and I like to do things on my own. That's not good if you went to my school. However, it was good for my entrepreneurial career. So to answer your question, so what happened was, in the last 3 or 4 years ago or so, things have been great. The money's coming in, and I took on too many things. I mean, I was doing, as I say, we could talk on and on about the different products I had, and then I went even on to things that didn't involve my brand, which I wanted to do because what we were talking about earlier, this is not Rob Cubbon, this is separate. And I can maybe sell this business as well. I can flip this business. So I was selling T-shirts and other types of books that didn't have my name on them, and other types of merch. So I did. I definitely did overload myself, and as I say, I kept on spinning lots of plates, and then one of them fell off, and then they all did, and it, over a period of time, and then all of a sudden, I thought, oh my God, what I actually don't want to do anything now. What am I going to do? What's life all about? So, again, this is another huge other topic of conversation. We're all different, Mark, and we've all got to be, and everything is change. Just because you've been successful at something at one time, it doesn't mean you're not going to carry on that way, especially not in this world with technology moving so fast and all these things happening. So I don't think. I'll tell you one thing. I mean, educating yourself, that never stops. Never. Don't believe if somebody says to you, "You're great, you're doing well," you've done this. Don't believe it because it could all come crashing down the next day, and that's not a bad thing. It's probably good for us to take stock and appreciate the change and learn to accept it, and try and work things out again at every stage of our lives and reinvent ourselves and see what comes up.
So obviously, I think a lot of people kind of identify with that idea of almost kind of taking on too much, almost it kind of overwhelming you, and then it stops being fun at certain points, and you then have to figure out, okay, what am I actually trying to achieve here, and stepping back. But looking big picture, there'll be maybe somebody listening to this and thinking, okay, yeah, one thing that Rob's really good at is he can kind of spot trends. He sees the Kindle books, he gets in there, he sees the online courses, he gets in there, and even the SEO on the website. But, I've missed a boat. It's, the glory days have gone, and, it would have been a great thing to do 5-10 years ago. But actually now producing a book or a course, it's all oversaturated. This is just not a great idea. What's your take on where we are now with this whole kind of using your knowledge and expertise to make a living? Like, where do you think we are now, and where do you see this going? Because obviously, again, the lockdowns have forced a lot of people to learn things online and maybe read and have to reinvent themselves or learn new skills. So first of all, is it too late for somebody starting now? And secondly, where do you think this is going over the next 5 years?
Yeah, I mean, the first thing to say is it's definitely not too late, because what you said, you said very kindly. You said I'm good at spotting new trends, and I've said, I'll tell you, every time the Kindles, I copied a guy called Steve Scott. The Udemy, I copied a lady called Tara Roskell, and everything I copied someone else to do. So I mean, it wasn't as if I was. I didn't spot the trend. I just had maybe just kept my eye on certain people, influencers. I guess they weren't even called influencers in those days, but I followed certain bloggers who were very good at finding the next thing, and then I went on to it. And yes, I mean, what I did writing Kindles, I suppose I guess I started Kindles in 2012. And I started the website in 2005. But yeah, I mean, there's more to writing a book than just being a bestseller and making loads of money. I mean, you write a book, you can take it to conferences and give it to people and say, "Oh, look, this is my book. It's free." I mean, you can buy it back. You can buy your own book from Amazon. You put the price down, right, to the lowest it can go. And then buy it, and then put the price back up, so it's only going to be $6, or I don't know what the minimum is, something like that. And so you've got that book, and you can show it, and that's great for your career. I mean, they don't know that nobody's bought it. It looks great. It's a paperback book. I mean, people couldn't do that. Definitely 20 years ago they couldn't do it. They'd have to find a publisher and all that rubbish. And you can do it for free. So it's not just about being successful. And this is pertinent to what we were just talking about. It's about being happy, isn't it? Life's about being happy. It's not about making money, because we all think if we get money, we'll be happy when you make money. But actually, that's not the truth. And that would be do it if you want to write a book. If you think that will make you happy, then do it. Don't do it to make money. So that would be a good way of, because I understand the what you're talking about. Feeling that you missed the boat, because I think that all the time. So maybe an answer would be: is there some other reason that it makes you happy to create this content? Does it make you happy to create this content? I think that's a good avenue to go down.
So actually enjoy the process of doing it, and not be too tied to, is it successful, is it not? And I think that's a lesson from, like you said about producing the books, some of them worked, some of them didn't work, but it's getting stuff out there and, seeing what sticks. And I think, to sum up, what I like about your approach is that you sort of demystify things in the sense of, it's not that hard to make a book. You write 500 words, and we'll check the maths later on that. But you write a book and you can do this with a course. It doesn't need to be something that takes years. If there's something specific, you can do it. There's a platform that will put it out for you. Keep it, really simple. And I think that's a really great message, in the sense that even if you do go on to more complicated things later, that there are a lot of people not producing courses, not writing books, even though it would benefit them and they might enjoy it, because they see it as this huge hurdle, huge obstacle. And I think one of the things that you've shown is that if you try and keep things simple and focused, you can actually produce quite a lot of stuff, and it can help you achieve the kind of lifestyle that you're leading there in Thailand. So before I let you go for your $1 food, which I'm intrigued now to see what that looks like. If somebody wants to find out more about you, I know that you're all over the place, different books, different things. What's the best place to go to find out more about you?
Right. Well, so probably just, as I said earlier, if you Google my name, so that's Rob, and the surname is Cubbon, Rob Cubbon, and then you can get onto my site, robcubbon.com, and you could sign up to my free newsletter, because I am going to do a newsletter every month from now on, I wish I could do it more often, but it's cheaper if I just do it once a month. And yeah, I'm going to talk about what the future holds for me, how I'm going to get my mojo back, and what I'm doing in order to stay sane in this pandemic we find ourselves in. I mean, it's not really about that, but it will be about online business as well.
Yeah, well, obviously, that's one of the points of this podcast, is sharing people's journey, because when you sometimes just see somebody's course or see a little clip of them, you sometimes get a sense that either this is easy or this is really difficult, or it's people living in Thailand never have any problems and they just sit on the beach with their toes lapping against the water, as I said earlier. And I think that's one of the great things about being able to have these kind of conversations, is you get to understand why people did certain things, how it made them feel, and actually how that affects your life and your happiness. Because at the end of the day, everything that we do in our work should be related to what we're trying to achieve generally. So I really appreciate your time. I feel bad keeping you from that food now, especially it's so cheap. Maybe you spend an extra 50 cents and get a dessert, live it up. But yeah, it's been great talking to you. And maybe sometime we'll get you back on and go really deep on maybe just that one topic, which is living remotely, doing the kind of laptop nomad lifestyle, and how you do that. So thanks again for your time, Rob. If you want to get started showing up on video and sharing your expertise, head over to markeganvideo.com to access some of my free training. Don't forget to join the Knowledge Industry group on Facebook. And if you want to connect, head to markeganvideo.com.